Hey guys, it's Q1 with Kingdom Builders Associates. We have a great episode for y'all today. I have my special guest here, Zach. Now, guys, you are in for a treat. I've been knowing Zach for a long time. Great guy, really amazing. And this episode, we're going to talk about home inspections. And he's one of the best. So, Zach, we're just going to jump right in because, I just get excited because look, guys, he worked with me a lot of times and he educated me so much on home inspections. A lot of things, even though I'm in the industry of construction, I had no clue about everything that goes into a home inspection. Zach, just tell me about yourself first.
All right, first, I'm a home inspector. Yeah, so I have a home inspection business licensed in North Carolina. And what we do is I serve investors, buyers such as yourself, anybody in the construction industry, anybody looking to buy a home. And what I do is I come in and inspect the home from pretty well rooftop to foundation. And what we're looking for is any defects in the structure. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It could be new, it could be old, and there's different defects depending on what phase of the structure is in, whether it's been 20 years, 50 years, or 2 years. And with new construction, really what we're looking for is items that may not be installed properly that'll cause issues down the road. So that's that's the deal.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
How long have you been in a home inspector?
I've been a home inspector for about 7 years, on my own for 4. So I started my own company. Originally, I started working with a larger company in the area and figured I could do things a little differently, put my own spin on it.
No, I definitely get it.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this. Is it any type of certifications you had to get? I mean, I know can't anybody off the street just become a home inspector. Like, I just can't go up and say, hey, I want to go inspect this house. I mean, what did you have to go through? Like, what type of schooling, something that you had to go through to become a home inspector?
Okay. Mr. Brewington, you know me well.
Yes.
I'll always tell you the truth. So, yeah, I mean, really, anybody can be a home inspector.
Okay.
You don't need a background in construction. You don't have to have grown up in the industry or even have worked in it. But you do need some certifications, and there is a license that you'd need to hold. If you wanted to be a home inspector, you'd reach out to the licensure board in whatever state you're in. Some states are not even licensed, so you can just walk in off the street. North Carolina and Texas are one of the most strenuous states. You certainly need to be licensed here. But other states, I believe maybe Tennessee, Arizona, places like that, don't quote me on that, but there's a handful of them. That you don't even need a license. So we're lucky to be in North Carolina here where there is a standard. And so you'd get licensed through the board, and you'd need a pre-licensing courses that are accredited by the state. That's how you would get into it. Now, when you get into the field, that's a whole new deal.
Right.
But that's how you get started.
Right. Now, you say you don't need license. So if I'm somebody, I just want to get this right.
In some states.
Okay, in some states.
Yeah.
But think about it. So you don't have to have any background, any schooling. So anybody can just become a home inspector. Now, when I say that, because if I'm Joe Blow off the street coming in inspecting a home, how do I know what to look for if I never been to school or anything? What's your thoughts?
Right. Yeah. Well, it's just like anything else. It's a good idea to have a phone call or an email thread, something set up before you really employ an individual. Talking to somebody will tell you a lot about how they operate, what they understand, kind of what their background is. A lot of us did come from construction, but some did not. Some used to be police officers, some used to be accountants, some used to be, this and that, but found an interest in the industry. It's very interesting. It's fun. It's very enjoyable. So I could see the draw. It's the reason I was drawn to it. It's a nice place to be. So when you say what to look for, I would say a good inspector is nearly obsessed. I mean, you have to really want to do this. You got to like it a lot and be consumed in it. I know that's excessive. Feels a little over the top to even say it. But you're a generalist. You've got an HVAC tech who is a specialist. You have an electrician, a specialist, highly focused on one area. An inspector's a generalist. You need to know everything about everything when it comes to the construction process. Not only the process of construction, but how it performs over time. So you could see how if you were going to be a good electrician, you need to be obsessed with electricity. If you're going to be a good generalist, you'd better be interested in a lot of things. And that is home inspection. That's, the definition of it is the visual inspection of readily accessible components and systems of a structure. All right, so that's saying that we're not really supposed to have tools, right? But have you ever seen an inspector not show up with tools?
No.
Yeah, I know. Because some things are not readily accessible, right? It takes a screwdriver or something. Now, you wouldn't open up walls. It's not invasive because it is visual. But you need to have a working knowledge of tools, how things work, and to do it safely. So that's the thing, too. A good inspector is going to be safe. You have to have a safety mindset. Sometimes you have customers and clients with you on site. I've had many of situations that could have gone south had I not had a safety mindset. And for yourself as well, just like in any industry. You're going to approach an electrical panel. Well, if you're not familiar with how an electrical panel is installed, what a dead front cover is, how to remove that cover, you could electrocute yourself or someone else. Now, that's a scary thought, but it is a possibility. So, number one is safety. Number two is obsession. You got to be all about it.
Now, that's really good, and you really show it when I'm on a site with you on different sites. I can tell that you really love what you're doing, because it just shows, it shines through. I mean, because you're not only professional, but you're very educated about a lot of things. I mean, again, you've taught me just by looking at structures, even though I'm in construction, I'm not what you call an inspector. I think it is a difference between just going into construction. Like, I'm a generalist. Right. You get it? So I know a lot about the overall things, but just going in detail like you do, I'm like, wow, he really knows his stuff. And like you said, that does differentiate between a good inspector and a great inspector. And I think you're one of the greats.
Wow.
Well, I do,
okay,
man.
I appreciate that.
You're right, right. Humbly. You're very humble.
Okay.
I know. But you are, I think you take your job very serious, and I can just tell when you go up there, your mind is on the client and make sure that client knows everything about what's going on in that home before they buy it. So this is just a great segue to just talk about, for the client, let's just talk about home buying first. Oftentimes in the home buying process, clients, I think they need to get a home inspection. And, no matter how pretty it is on the outside, as you taught me, it's those inside things that you really need to look at.
All right.
So just kind of talk about that process, and why is it so important before you sign on the dotted line to get that home inspection, and how that home inspection can help you negotiate in the buying process.
Okay. All right, so real estate has a handful of clients. So I think first what you'd want to consider is which one are you? So you have your real estate investors that are looking to own a bunch of doors, want a big portfolio. You have someone who's buying their personal home, and it's their fifth home. They've been homeowners for 40 years, or so. You have someone who's a first-time home buyer. You see how it depends on who we're talking about here. Right. These are very different situations. So first you have to know which one of these people that you are. And Also, your budget. So when you're looking at houses, any property, whether it's an investment or a personal home, you have a number in mind. You know what your budget is. The real estate professional has developed a listing for this property. They're going to let you know that here's what's great about it, here's what's beautiful,
Right.
look at these photos. It's legit. You know, they're selling the property and they're telling you all the things you need to know about the area and the schooling system, and all these things are great, and that's what you need to know, and that's what they're there for, you know, to lead you through that transaction, make sure it goes off without a hitch. What is outside of their role is the condition of the structure,
Right.
the current condition of the structure, things that you don't notice if you're not obsessed with the structure itself. So inspection is just another role in that process. It's not the whole process, it's just a piece of it. It's a team effort really to get here. So if you're looking at a house and you say, okay, it's an older home and we want to do some cosmetic thing, so we're going to repaint everything. We're going to paint cabinets, walls, we might even put some flooring in, and we have a budget for that and we know what that number is. Great. Well, like you say, before you sign on that dotted line, let's make sure that you don't need crawl space remediation. Let's make sure that that investment is protected in the long term. That's what your inspector does. Is that they're not, you know, we're interested in getting you to close, and that's great. We want to go ahead and check that box. And every time I approach a home, my hope is that we have a clean inspection report.
Right.
I'm not here to find defects. I'm here to inspect the structure, and hopefully every box is a check, not an X. You know, nobody likes an X, right? I hate to see an X.
Right.
You know, I would love to see that, okay, we're good. Green light, let's roll. That's what we're looking for, because it's peace of mind. You're going to get peace of mind knowing that, all right, my structure is in great condition, and I can start buying paint and
Right.
furniture, and I'm going to spend that whole budget on
Right.
cosmetic, make it pop. That's great. There's also peace of mind knowing that before you sign on that dotted line that you've got X amount of dollars going into the crawl space, or we've got a crack foundation. You have different types of foundation cracks. Settlement is fairly common. Even new concrete, there's only two kinds of concrete. Kind that's cracking or it's going to crack. All of it cracks. You know, what is the reason for that cracking? And so what would the repair look like for that crack? Is it just a patch, or do we need some real repairs here? That's going to give you a lot of insight. Even knowing that that defect is there in that structure gives you peace of mind. You're like, well, at least I know. At least I know. Is this for me? Is this investment for me? What's going to go into it? That's what we're doing, is we're outlining the structure from top to bottom. We're saying, okay, you thought you had 25 years on the roof. You have 12. Is that okay? Ish. You know, I would never give you a hard number. I can't predict the future. A tornado could change everything, right? But, you know, we can see that, you know, we're wearing in this area, or this, or that. Some things might be, well, you know, it doesn't look like the filter's been changed in 2 years on your HVAC system. You know, give you those homeowner tips. That's another thing, too. So now you've been educated. We need to change our HVAC filters once a month. Well, do you have pets? Maybe you want to cut that time in half. You got 3 dogs in the house. You don't want to go all month. You certainly don't want to go 6 months. And these are big ticket items. So that's what we're here to do, is to get a full view of the entire structure, but also go through the space and outline those maintenance items that a homeowner would need to have. And see, that could be very beneficial for a first-time home buyer or somebody that's lived in an apartment where everything was taken care of. You know, you take on a lot of responsibility when you buy a house, and if you don't maintain that responsibility, it could negatively impact your investment and make this a lot less fun than it could have been. And so if you say, why should I get a home inspection? There's a lot of reasons. But the most important is education. If you may even be in construction, like yourself, like you mentioned. I'm in construction. I'm around it each and every day, but I didn't really think about how often I should change the filters. Little stuff, you know. You install HVAC, but and you provide filters, but how long has it been since you changed your filter? You know, stuff like that. And to bring it up when we're in that process, it's important because it'll bring it to your mind. And also, we're generating an inspection report that's delivered to your email. You've seen one. So you can refer back to that. Some of the things that I'll outline are things like downspouts on the gutter system. Maybe those should extend 4 feet outside of the structure. Well, maybe you forgot to do that because the hustle and bustle of the real estate deal. But you can refer back to that report and say, what did he say? You know, what were those 5 things that were not that big of a deal but could affect me in 5 years? That's how we're viewing the structure. Current condition and what could happen down the road. And we're catching that today. Now, on this day, we've given you the current condition, and that's all we know. But we can predict some things. Negative slope over your yard. Every time it rains, the water goes against the foundation. It's not a problem today, but we want to bring that up. Maybe we should move some of this dirt heads up. You know, now in 5 years, you're not looking at a foundation repair. You can buy new furniture, get you a new fridge, things you want to do, because your industry, mine both. You know, sometimes it's not so pretty. You know, we're here to fix problems a lot, and that's not what people are looking for. So, good thing that we're here when you have an issue, but together we can try to alleviate some of that. Rather than call you for a foundation repair, they call you to move some dirt so they don't have a foundation repair, and everybody's happy.
Right. Now, I know this is a good one. What is the worst inspection you ever seen? A home inspection, like?
You know.
And the best. I know. Have you ever seen where you just check the boxes and no X's?
I've had some inspections where I needed to know. I remember asking this. I needed to ask the agent who installed the electricity here. I need to know because that's good work. And actually, we deal with each other now. You know, so I have his number. Like, we text back and forth. So I have seen some good work. Don't think that, you know, that I would. Like I said, I'll always tell you the truth.
Right.
Not all construction guys are criminals. Not all tradespeople are bad guys.
No.
There are the small few that give us all a bad name. You know, and that's another reason that we need to excel in our trades, like to bring a good name to the industry. Let's do a really good job. And that's why I mention it's helpful to be laser focused, to be obsessed with what you're doing, because you're fully committed. If you're going to be in inspections, if you're going to be in anything, don't do it halfway. Be all in. Be fully focused, because you better serve your clients that way. You know, you produce a better product, and it gives you peace of mind knowing that you're leaving a trail of good experiences rather than, you know, an individual that does shoddy work. It's hard to sleep at night,
right?
You know, and I know it is because I've seen some, you know, and I think like, I bet that keeps you up at night. Right. You know, you half did that thinking nobody would see it,
right?
And you know, here you are. So one thing, as an inspector, for inspectors, but also tradesmen, be calm. You know, be relaxed. Like, get in your flow. Don't rush through it. Don't overbook. Don't, you know, try to know what your limits are. You know, because we're all in. This is a business. We understand that. Like, bills we have to pay, groceries we must buy. But let's know our limits. And when we try to expand things like that, adding guys to the team, you know, what are their limits? How soon should you turn them out? You know, we don't want to leave a trail of bad work behind. So, I've seen some good work. I have seen some bad work. The worst one, I think I have 2 that really come to mind, would be I was inspecting a property for one of my investor clients. He's out of town, and he just he just trusts me to, he sends me out in the field on his behalf. I call myself, and he calls me the boots on the ground. So I go and inspect a property that did not have the minimum clearance in a crawl space. And, most structures are built with that minimum clearance. Now, the minimum, you don't even really want to work in there.
Right.
What is it? You can't crawl, but
Right.
there is a minimum clearance. And it was obvious that wasn't there. And there was no vapor barrier. And it had rotted the floor system pretty much entirely. And you'll find that this was an older home. You'll find that in older houses because our codes have changed over time, and it wasn't required back then to have a vapor barrier. So just the evaporation from the soil just came up into the floor. There was also no underfloor insulation because there was no HVAC. We didn't really need it. The building envelope was not really a thing 100 years ago. Now we insulate the floors, the walls, and the ceiling to create an envelope. And we're pumping in cold air, like we're conditioning the space. Well, when you do that in an older home that doesn't have a complete envelope, it sweats just like the windshield in your car does. When you turn the heat on and it's cold outside, you have that temperature differential, and you can draw lines in it. Pictures, that moisture, it does that in the house. And so this was something, it was like a retrofit. They had taken a really old home and put some modern things in it, brand new HVAC, stuff like that. It was what we'd call a flip, And, a lot of things were done right, a lot of cosmetic stuff, but there was just that lack of knowledge in between those codes, that change, like what should we have done? And a lot of times those are the ugly spaces that nobody wants to go. When you fix things, you like to go inside and do paint and trim and doors and windows, but nobody wants to go in a crawl space. There might be scary stuff.
Right.
There's been cats under there. I've seen possums, all sorts of stuff.
Right.
Nobody wants to go. You got to suit up to make it happen, or you end up filthy. It's always the last portion of the inspection that I visit because I already know. I'll get with my people and just say, like, hey, this is kind of what we saw today, but I'm going to go in the crawl space, so you guys can just go if you want, because when I get out of there, I'm filthy and I'm out, But a crawl space was definitely the worst that I had ever seen, with a floor structure that, complete redo. And I crawled it. I don't just stop. I mean, I like to provide photos. I want you to know that I really crawled the place, no matter how bad it looked. And this actually had an occupant inside at the time. Someone was renting it. And when he was walking, it was kind of moving over my head because in the bathroom, the toilet had fallen down and stuff. You could see that it had taken some real abuse from the lack of insulation. Definitely the worst.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, something that a lot of contractors, I'm going to go here because something that you've taught me, and how we partner in a lot of things. Tell me about the importance of having someone like yourself do a pre-inspection. So, let's take, for example, a home that we did with fire restoration. But even though it was permitted for the city to come in, I personally, because like you said, I want to make sure the client gets what they're paying for, but also that what we're providing is up to par too as well.
Right.
So that's just that added layer for Kingdom Builders Associates in our excellency. So tell me about, and we could share this with other contractors, that pre-inspection. A lot of them might not want to do it, but I feel like you said, when you're not just obsessed, but you really have the heart for the client, you want to make sure you have a great product and your name is on the line, you want to make sure at the end of the day you can sleep.
Right.
So, of course, I call you on projects. Like, it's not, I don't have to, but I want to make sure that at the end of the day, that product is good. not good, but great.
Exactly. Excellent. Very good.
Right, right. So tell me, why is it important to call someone out like yourself, even though I'm in construction or
Right.
an electrician or anybody is in the trade, but we're gonna call Zach out to say, hey, listen, I want to put your eyes on it as well. Come take a look at this particular project that we're doing. What do you think? What's some things that we need to change before we present it to the client?
Right. Okay. Well, I'm going to rely on you for this one to help us stay on track, because we need to back up a little bit.
Okay.
One, to why a contractor or builder would not want to do that. I could understand that. I know a lot of inspectors. We all train together. I have inspector friends that we Facebook, we text back and forth from the mountains to the coast. And training with them, I've met a lot of different personalities.
Right.
All right. So as a builder, as a contractor, this is your project. You're taking pride in your work, and the reason that you've sought my advice is to better your process, right? So you need to trust your inspector. Like, how do you choose an inspector? What are red flags in inspectors?
That's good.
And so you see where I'm going with this. Yeah. You may not want to call this guy. Like, so I know some of these guys. The inspector that is aggressive, like, he's here to find defects. Like, he's here to skin somebody up.
Right,
you know,
right.
he's about that. He's hoping that
Right.
you messed up. Like, and anything you did, he's on you. Like, not taking into consideration that these are real processes. This is the stuff that's happening in the field. Bring it to their attention. You know, it's easy enough. Don't scold people. You know, don't be aggressive like that. This is not a hostile situation. Now, you know, I can't speak for everybody in the way that they run their business.
Right.
In my experience, and the way that I approach it, and the way that I have, felt the interactions between some of the more aggressive inspectors. It depends on how you approach it. You know, how do you approach the job? How do I view you as a contractor? Do I think that you're a snake in the grass? Mm-hmm. Or do I think you're somebody who shares probably a lot of the same interests as I do because we're in the same industry? Have you been polite and professional with me, so now we're more friendly? You know, we're alike. You know, we just are at different angles of the deal. And so, can I provide something to you, or am I looking to take something away from you? Do I want to steal your credibility, or do I want to improve your process, you know, and build a working relationship with you? So it depends on who you call. And a lot of times you're going to have, like, so I've been commissioned to inspect custom homes before. And the builders were really upset, you know, behind that, like that their client would not trust them fully and this and that. And as it turns out, they've had dealings with other inspectors that had ill intent. You know, they were looking to discredit that builder. And in doing so, it just put a rift between him and all inspectors moving forward. And at that point, I had not talked to that builder. You know, we had never met. He had never spoken to me. He just heard inspectors on his way. We're going to schedule this. And he raised Cain because, you know, he had a bad experience. So no telling who the first inspector was. You see him all over TikTok, YouTube, and everywhere else, you know, where they're out to get these guys. Contractors are bad guys. Right. No, contractors are not bad guys. You know,
right.
There's bad guys in every industry. You know, so that's what I would say about that. If you're going to have your property inspected, pre-listing inspections was the topic, and very wise. And I'm biased to a pre-listing inspection. I love them, of course. But what I would say about them is what's most valuable is not just your process, the clients, and if there's a real estate professional involved, because there's less snags. Once you guys start that process and you're saying, all right, we've got one under contract, it's all steam ahead,
Right.
you don't want any snags. Well, a lot of snags happen as soon as an inspector shows up. And we had a little time there where people were buying things sight unseen, but that's not as common as it was during the chaos.
Right.
So the odds of you taking your property to the market, you have a realtor, or however you go about it, and somebody's looking to buy this structure, somebody's coming to look at it. And you don't want to get caught in the dealings with that. Like, here, fix this, fix that, fix that. You're already doing something else by that point. You're working on another project because this one is complete. You don't take unfinished projects to the market. So you're on to something else. Your guys are scattered all about, and you've got a snag. If you're doing your punch list, your blue tapes, and you're going around finding all the little doorknobs that, need adjustment and latches and stuff, and you have a pre-listing inspection, now your blue tape has 5 other items on it that could come up in an inspection. How often have I stepped on site to find a shrinkage crack in concrete? Very common. But that's a crack that needs repair. That's not a repair. If I show up and I find a shrinkage crack that has mortar in it, that's a repair. If I show up and find a shrinkage crack that's still just there, we need attention. Come back, Kingdom, patch this hole. There's nothing to it, but you got to patch it because moisture intrusion, we don't want it to get worse. A small shrinkage crack, could double, right? You don't want to see any moisture inside the concrete. You want it to be a solid surface, and we do that just by patching that hole. It's fine. But you found an active crack rather than a prior repair. And so that's one of the things that comes up quite often is things like that. Like here, this handrail is not attached properly. Little things that's going to be a callback for you. And that's the one word you don't want to hear. It's callback. Hey, Kingdom, we got 5 little items,
right.
For you to come
We
with
don't
your
move
screwdriver
right, exactly.
and fix. So pre-listing, yeah. And also some other things come up sometimes that would be a little more significant, which would be kick-out flashing. I see that a lot. We build them as fast as we can, and guys are there and they're gone. And it's not necessarily the builder, the contractor, the roofer. It's not always their fault because I've seen the packages that are offered. And so you'll say, when you guys are doing your interview, you'll say, all right, what's your budget for this roof? You say, okay, I want these shingles, I want this and that. Well, would you like to upgrade to a drip edge? And here's this. And they're like, no, I don't want that. Drip edge is really important. It's not really an upsell, but it gets viewed like that a lot. It's like kick out flashing and drip edge and things like that are part of the roof system get kind of viewed as an upsell, but really they're just great items that you really need. And so on some of those pre-listing jobs, I have found that maybe a wall to a roof intersection here in that valley is missing kick-out flashing. It's a piece that turns inward, and it's going to send that water that runs down that roof surface out, away from the structure. And like a vinyl home, water's real strange in how it does. It's like electricity, will find paths, right? And you would think that the way that vinyl siding is connected, nothing could get behind it, but it does. And so if that water runs down that intersection and gets behind that vinyl, it'll rot the sheathing. And that's something that you'll find on a remodel or new construction, something like that, an area that's missing those little items that you didn't really think about or that might have got dismissed as an upsell.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
I know we're running out of time, but one thing I want to talk about really, really quick, that technology is really taking over. Where do you see home inspections in the future? You know, we have AI now.
Yeah.
You know, but tell me, what do you think in the future? You think your job is in jeopardy, or tell me about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I like technology.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not afraid of it, and
Right.
I try to utilize it. I see probably what I've seen so far is report writing just got a lot easier. You know, so that's nice. There's some really great things with it. Jokingly, but it's a fact. My comrades have really ragged on me about over tooling. You know, so the infrared cameras, the this, the that, you know. So I pretty much I've taken this position where when you're doing an inspection, there's no substitute for your five senses.
That's good.
You know, you can really overdo it with gadgets because and what you'll find is you're in and out, going to the van, bringing in a case with an infrared camera and a big thing, and you don't want to drop it, and it's so expensive. You know, it's just a little much, you know, sometimes, and it has been for me. And there's really nothing as far as technology that we have today that you can't catch with the naked eye by following the processes. You know, so an example would be you go into the attic. How many times have I bought a gas tester, a little thing that'll beep if it smells gas, and I'm holding it smelling gas? You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
That's over tooling, right?
Right.
You know, and that's why I pulled the tool out because I smelled gas.
Right.
And then so the next thing I do is get the soapy water and spray it to figure out exactly what joint is leaking.
Right.
You know, you arrive on site, you've got a tile shower pan, and you know, grout's not waterproof, so you'll plug it, you fill it with water. That's the first thing you do. I'm going to be there for 3-4 hours and just leave water in it and see if it leaks. You know, that's kind of what you're using the infrared camera for, you know, to see is there any, you know, moisture or whatever. One of the great things, though, about the infrared is sometimes you can find registers that have been covered by sheetrock. But it really goes back to this. What is your obsession? What is your knowledge of the industry? You know how many supply registers are supposed to be in that room.
Right.
If there's not one in the bathroom, it's probably been covered up by either sheetrock or tile. So we just bring this up, and then it just goes right back to whoever installed it. You know, like, what happened here? You know, there's advantages and disadvantages. One of the disadvantages I would say is that it takes a lot of your attention, and you're going to need a lot of your attention to do a proper job on site. So if you're really savvy, you're all about that tech, you know, you want to do the tools, that's fine. And I tried it myself. It wasn't ideal for me. So I go to some of the older methods. I definitely utilize technology for some of my report writing. But in the field, these are physical structures. There's no risk of robots taking over construction or inspections, you know. But, you know, there'll be new tools, there'll be new gadgets, and we'll use those drones. I mean, that's the whole thing.
Right.
Because, you know, I mentioned taking to the old ways with a ladder in your boots, walking a roof. It's not great to walk on a roof. You know, it's already been walked on a lot when they were installing it. So you don't really want to walk on a new roof. It's not going to hurt it, I guess, but, you know, consider how a shingle is made. We won't get into that,
Right,
you know, but consider that. And it's best to just view it. And so drone technology is nice. You know, don't let the wind catch it, throw it into the neighbor's house. I mean, there's some,
Right.
you know, there's some setbacks there.
Right.
But so I use a GoPro, and I'll use some of that stuff to not walk it. An older roof, you certainly don't want to walk. It's not safe. The granulars are loose, and so you can slip and fall and cause damage to the roof. So we're not at risk, and we should use it to our advantage. But just remember that no substitute for your five senses. It helps you. Just pay attention,
There's so many more things that I could talk about, but I guess we have to wrap it up. How can we contact you? How can you provide service for clients or someone ready to buy a home, investors? Are you on social media? Tell us how we can find you.
Yeah, I'm everywhere, man. yeah. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Google, Spectre Services. That's where I'm at. And I serve everybody, man. Like, if you're looking to invest in real estate and there's just too much, you don't want to come down or you don't want to walk the property, you need a list of items, I got you. If you're a first-time home buyer, if this is your 10th home, if you're a construction pro,
Right.
and you're looking to get pre-listing, real estate individuals, I mean, anybody in the real estate industry, I'm here. It's the same process. If you have certain needs, we can tailor that to your needs. It doesn't have to be the whole thing. If you don't want to look at the roof, we can look at the rest or whatever. But it's the same dedicated process.
There you have it, folks. I mean, this was very, very in-depth. I mean, this has been things, even just in listening to him today, I'm like, wow, it's a lot just in home inspections. So like you said, if you want to get a home inspection, make sure you check out Inspector. That's the name of his company.
Spectre Services.
Inspector Services. So that's the name of his company. And guys, again, if you like content like this, make sure you like and subscribe. Until next time, until the next episode, you guys have a great rest of the day.